The chair recognizes Mr. Bryan to explain the amendment.
It's Amendment 41.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Texas is 43rd in the United States in the state's contribution to public education. We have been in the basement for year after year after year. This time we have plenty of money to try to move us up towards at least the national average, and we have the opportunity with this amendment to take a big step in that direction. This amendment would increase the basic allotment by $500. I believe I heard a moment ago the chairman of the Education Committee said he's planning to increase it by $140. Well, $6,160 per ADA puts us in the basement at 43rd, like I told you just a moment ago. This amendment would add $500 to that. Now, what's the rationale for it? It requires another $1,000 per ADA just to make up for the inflation during the years that we've not given an increase to our public schools. I established in questioning Mr. Morath before the Education Subcommittee of the Appropriations Committee that our public schools, our independent school districts, have not had an increase in public education funding since 2014. The increases you hear referred to, all of the balance went to charter schools. Your independent school district has not had an increase in funding since 2014. $6,160 is not adequate. We would have to move it vastly more than that, even to be 25th in the nation. This would just move it up by $500 per ADA, take care of half of what's needed to make up for inflation, and I urge your support.
The chair recognizes Mr. Van Dever to speak against the amendment.
Members, I'd ask you to oppose this amendment again. Very similar to the discussion we just had. This is wanting to take money from the property tax relief, put it in BA. BA is wide open, and again, same argument. I would just ask you to vote no on this amendment.
The chair recognizes Mr. Bryant to close on the amendment.
Mr. Speaker, members, I would just ask you, when are we going to finally try to move up toward the national average? This time we have the money, and once again, we're hear the same response. Well, we're going to do it next year. We have another bill. Something's going to happen to make it happen in the future. It's not going to happen in the future unless we get off this train, this status quo train, and take an action and actually increase it. Here's an opportunity to increase it by $500, half of what's necessary to make up for inflation during the years our
Mr.
school
Speaker.
systems did not get
Mr. Rosenthal,
any
for what purpose?
Does the gentleman yield for
gentlemen.
questions?
The gentleman yield for questions.
I yield.
The gentleman yields for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. I applaud your effort at this. I really do. Do you know what the national average basic allotment is?
I'd like to know.
Isn't it around $11,000 per student?
$11,000,
Do you know, and where are we at right now?
$6,160,
And where are you trying to drive us to?
$6,660.
Well, I do want to have an increase, but I feel like we're well below the national average. Any idea where we are, where we fall in terms of state ranking for the basic allotment for kids in public education?
43rd in the United States.
Would you agree that if this body was committed to public education, we would want to at least rise into the middle of the pack for the basic allotment for each of our kids?
If we were to increase the basic allotment to make us 25th, it would require $33 billion, which is a big statement with regard to where this surplus came from. It came from failing to fulfill our basic obligations under the Constitution and to our children.
Exactly. I applaud your effort. I wish the folks in here were actually paying attention to this conversation. I can barely hear you.
So do I. Yeah.
Members, please take your conversations outside the rail.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Bryant, for your effort today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Members of the House, I simply ask for your vote for a $500 increase in the basic allotment to make up for just half of the inflation effect on our public school systems while they have not been receiving an increase in funding. I urge passage.
The question occurs on the passage of the amendment. A record vote has been requested by Ms. Isaac. A record vote has been granted. The clerk will ring the bell. Mr. Van Diva voting nay. Mr. Smith voting nay. Mr. Bryant voting aye. Have all members voted? There being 62 ayes and 85 nays, the amendment fails to adopt.